Hello, greetings, and salutations. Welcome aboard my podcast. I am Jason with Jay's Paradise Travels. Thank you for tuning in to today's episode. I'm going to be talking about my experience with the California Golden Bears. I feel like that's a mouthful. A lot of times they're short to just Cal Golden Bears or Cal Bears. And this was part of a trip that I got to go on where me, my dad, and another friend were together in the San Francisco area, and we caught three games in one weekend. The other two games were Stanford and the San Francisco 49ers, of which those are on other podcasts. But for today, in this podcast, I will be discussing my experience with California Golden Bears. I'll probably just for uh, sake of ease, I'll probably just refer to them as Cal Bears, or maybe even just Cal. Anyways, uh, no, before I get into everything, just a little housekeeping. You can find me on social media on Jay's Paradise Travels, whether that's Instagram or Facebook. I'm on those. You can reach out to me if you're looking to book a trip somewhere. There's no apostrophe in that. It's just Jays, Jay's Paradise Travels. Or you can reach out to me through email at j.paradise@gmail.com. And you can also reach out to me that way too. I'd be more than happy to help you to see a game, to go on a cruise, which is my specialty, or even go see the Cal Golden Bears if that's something you might be interested in after this episode. You never know. Let's get into it. So the Cal Bears, they play in Berkeley, California, which is not far from San Francisco, kind of just across some water there. I don't recall what bridge, if whatever one we went on. Obviously San Francisco is going to be known for the Golden Gate Bridge, which I thought when we were out there, I thought we were going to see, and we actually saw a different one. I think it was uh, maybe it was Oakland Bridge or something like that. But it wasn't. It ended up not being the Golden Gate. I was kind of bummed. I have seen the Golden Gate Bridge years ago when I was younger. We took a trip out to California, but I was hoping to do it on this trip, and I didn't get a chance to, or we didn't, anyways. But they're on that other side, a little bit more north, northeast of San Francisco, I guess you could say. When I was looking at the map, San Francisco kind of went down, and down here was Stanford and the 49ers, but uh, Berkeley was a little bit more north of all that. Um, anyways, on this trip, on the particular day, we saw Stanford first. Again, that's on another podcast. And then Berkeley was an evening game, or Cal playing in Berkeley was an evening game. And they were hosting the Miami Hurricanes, who were undefeated at the time and ranked pretty high. Can't remember exactly the ranking, sixth, seventh, maybe. In the top 10, as far as I know. They have a good quarterback named Cam Ward. Got to see him play live. Real dynamic guy to watch. Enjoyed that. I'll get into all that in a bit about the game, but just kind of talking about leading up to it. The afternoon game we saw was Stanford, and then from there we had an evening game that was Cal, and I was kind of happy about that when I was looking at the schedule. I don't know if I've ever mentioned this or not, but for every year when schedules come out for NFL and college football, when they finally come out with their schedules, I will pull them all up on the internet. I have a spreadsheet that I use, and I've combined, the teams that are kind of closest to each other, such as Cal, Stanford, and the 49ers, are all in that vicinity. Um, and I will look at their schedules. I'll see which one lines up, and I'll try to catch something that I can. If I can get all of them at once, I will. Now, one of the kind of issues I run across a lot of times, at least with college, is that they a lot of times don't they'll release a schedule and see who's playing, but it isn't until later on where we actually get the times of when they'll play. A lot of that has to do with the TV networks and when they decided who wants what game and when and all that. There's a lot of things that go into that. So I can see on the schedule that I've written down, okay, San Francisco is going to be playing this weekend as well as Cal and Stanford. But as regards when they're playing, I don't know. They could be playing at the same time, or they could be playing right after each other, but there's not enough time between one game and the next game in order to make it work. So there's a problem that I have to deal with. With that being the case, in order to make that work, one of them has to be like the noon game, and then the other one has to be the evening game to have that time frame in between to be able to get from one stadium to another. Depending on the teams in the area. Sometimes that isn't too far, maybe an hour or so, or sometimes they're a little, maybe a couple hours or so away. And when that's the case, a lot of times I'll be getting there a little bit late. In regards to Stanford and Cal, they're not that far. I would say probably an hour away. However, we did go to San Francisco after the Stanford game. We went to San Francisco to kind of hang out, see Fisherman's Wharf, grab a bite to eat on our way to the game in Cal. It was nice to do that. It was nice to see Fisherman's Wharf. Again, I had seen that years ago when we had visited California. And I remember eating some really good food there, some really good seafood, and wanted to have that again. I did. I did get to do that. There's something there that they have. It's like a bread bowl, sourdough bread, and it's filled with like clam chowder, and you can eat the clam chowder, then the bowl. Delicious. My dad had gotten some seafood too, and then they got some souvenirs they wanted to get for themselves and their family. I'm not a souvenir guy. Not I used to be maybe when I was younger, but they look cool in the store. But then you get it home and it just sits there, and nothing I'm really going to do with it. So I'm not really too big of a souvenir guy. They got some souvenirs though for themselves, and my friend he got it for his family. He's got some daughters, so I think he got something for them. Anyways, so we went through that, but because of that, and it took a little while to park over there. Parking over there was a nightmare, and that kind of delayed us. Uh, when we eventually got out of there, there was, we still had some time until the game started, but because of traffic, unfortunately, we didn't get there on time, and which is always a bummer to me. I like to be there right at the beginning. I mean, it is what it is. It's better than not going at all, I suppose. Where possible, I do like to get there on time. A lot of traffic, and one of the reasons why this one was going to be so full is because ESPN's College Game Day was in California that day. They were in, I mean, for the California game at the Cal Bears game. They were going there. They were playing Miami, who was a ranked team. It was uh, Cal used to be in what was called the Pac-12, and as of this year, they've moved into a different conference called the ACC, the Atlantic Coast Conference, which is funny to me that a team on the Pacific Coast is now in a conference called the Atlantic Coast. That's funny to me. Whatever. That's how college football is now. Um, so this was their very first home game in that conference, and they were bringing in a team in Miami who's a big name. They've had some history to themselves. Um, and they're really good this year. They've got a really great quarterback in Cam Ward, as I mentioned. Apparently, that was enough for College Game Day. Maybe there was more part of the decision, but to them to decide to come to Berkeley and go to be there at the Cal game. For those of you that may not know what College Game Day is, it is a show that's a few hours long that comes on every Saturday morning around 9 o'clock Eastern time, and it's around 3 hours. And they've got a panelist of guys, former players and coaches, and a host. And they talk about all the upcoming games for that day and what's going on in college football. It's a live event, and you got a lot of people there partying and tailgating and having their banners and flags up, um, and so they only do one. They're only going to one area every week, and there's a lot of games going on every week. They pick usually what they feel is like one of the best matchups, or something that's important, and they'll go visit that game. For this particular week, it was at Cal. I believe this is, if I can think back, it was my first time going to a game that College Game Day was at as a fan. I say that because I've worked at Michigan Stadium since like 2011, and College Game Day has come to Michigan Stadium for a few games like Michigan, Ohio State, this previous year Michigan, Texas. So I've been to a game that College Game Day has been to, but as an employee, I've never gone as a fan. Had we not gone through San Francisco, I probably would have maybe liked to seen what was going on around campus, but we got there late. And what's interesting is, College Game Day, as I mentioned, starts at 9 o'clock Eastern time, and California is on the West Coast. So, I mean, they were up and going at 6 a.m. California time, which the way I'm up early anyways. I probably could have seen it, but we had another game to go to. So Cal wasn't the first game we were going to. So I couldn't have gone to game day. It would have just been interesting to see what was going on up until the game started. Oh, well, whatever. Anyways, we get there and we're driving. I mean, we are stuck in traffic, and there wasn't a lot of parking lots that we noticed. It was kind of residential around it. Um, One-way streets. Maybe it was two ways, but it was just very tight, like one lane, went back and forth. Very hard to find parking, and that ended up becoming an atrocious nightmare. Um, and we eventually got up to a like an intersection. There's a cop there, so we asked him where we could park. He pointed us down blocks away that there was a parking garage. Okay, fine. We start heading that way slowly but surely. Well, as we're approaching that, someone who was parked on the street was leaving, and we just kind of thought, okay, great, great. We caught a break. Usually if to park on the street, everything is full. But if this guy's leaving, we can pull up. Now, at this point, it's kind of dark out. This is a night game. California time is started at 7. Now, it's darker, 10 o'clock back on the East Coast time. So we parked there. The guy left. We thought we had a good time. We parked there. We head into the game. I'll come back to that later. So we get into the game, and one of the things I like to take pictures of is the outside of the stadium. Both Cal and Stanford, that was very difficult to do. With Cal, at least, and of course, I was a little bit rushing too. The game was starting, so I didn't get a chance to go around to see around the stadium. And I also like to take a picture of whatever sign that shows the stadium. It was dark out, couldn't get the greatest shots for exterior. I did the best I could, but I couldn't quite get the greatest shots in the world, nor could I find something that said their stadium. Now, their stadium name is California Memorial Stadium, one of many memorial stadiums out there. That's kind of a common thing that you see across college football. Um, yeah, so we got there, and the game had already started. Now, it was a loud atmosphere, definitely for sure. You could hear the roar of the crowd. Um, in Miami, it actually, by the time we got there, we went in. We had to kind of go up a little bit, and I took whatever pictures I could of the outside from there. We get in there. I kind of looked to see where we were at. We were on one of the corners, and we, of course, were sitting on the opposite side corner. So we were the furthest away from our seats that we could have been. Of course, that just seems to how it always is. It always is. Anyways, so we start walking, and as we're walking, we eventually start walking to go. We're on the outside of the stadium, not outside the gates, but just we're not inside like a corridor or anything like we were when we first got in there. And we're walking around, and next thing you know, there I see our section in this little hole. What seemed like a little hole didn't seem like a big entrance into it or big signs to it, just little. I was like, oh, I guess that's where we're at. So we get in there, we go down looking for our seats. It's kind of chaotic. The usher is just kind of like, yeah, you're in this section. It didn't even remotely try to help us with anything. We go down, find our seats. There's a couple people sitting in there. All right, so we're like, and the game's starting, the game's loud, and I will say this is a good atmosphere as regards like an electrifying atmosphere because it was full, game day was there, so the fans showed up. So with that, we're trying to show like, hey, you're in our seats kind of thing, and they wouldn't move. There's a guy and a girl. They wouldn't move, and they're like, here, seats in front of us. It's empty. Sit there. I didn't feel like making a big issue about it. I don't even know if the usher would have helped anyways. So I was like, all right, fine. To keep peace, we'll sit here. It's one row closer anyway. So we sat there. And in front of us, there was an empty row. But it just, as throughout the game, people kept sitting down like, oh, that's empty. And then they'll sit there. And then they'll leave. And then somebody else comes. They'll sit there. And, just back and forth we go. One guy, he was drunk out of his mind. He had him and I think his wife and daughter with him. And he's glossy eyed, staggering around. His wife comes, and these aren't their seats. His wife comes, proceeds to pick up, I believe it was like the water bottle that the guy next to me, he had a couple of his kids with him, and they had their water there, their water bottles. She comes, proceeds to pick it up, hand it to him, and sit down, like she owns the seat, even though it's not hers. Just, you know, that type of entitlement just kind of annoys me or frustrates me, but whatever. Anyways, I didn't say anything. Not going to. So, but they were there. Another couple guys sat down at another point, kept leaning back right into my legs, my knees, and that was kind of an annoying thing. I won't lie to you on that. It was a little bit more of pandemonium down there. Like you're on your own. It's Thunderdome. Whatever goes goes. And there was one guy I remember seeing as a Cal fan, just, yelling, screaming, flipping off the Miami fans. Not great. But they were kind of going back and forth to each other. I'm going to talk about the game here in a minute, but they were going back and forth with each other and just kind of being obnoxious toward one another. It is what it is. I'll circle back to them. Anyways, we get there, and I'll talk about the game before I start talking about all the rest of the experience in the stadium. Um, so this is a big game as regards for Cal hosting Miami, an undefeated team. Cal did seem to be a good team, and as time has gone on since that game, they're a good team, but they just seem to not be able to win. At one point in this game, they were up 21-10 at halftime, and even went up 35-10. 35-10 in the second half. And Miami came back and won the game. Yeah, they came back, clawed their way back. Cal did kick one more field goal, but at the very end, with only less than a minute to go, Miami scored yet another touchdown. Ended up taking a 39-38 lead. They were up, like I said, 35-10 at one point. Miami comes back and wins the game 39-38. I cannot recall ever witnessing live a comeback that large before. I've been to games where there have been comebacks, no doubt. I don't ever recall being at a game where someone blew a 25-point lead. Not that I can remember. I think that was a first for me. And and when they did lose, the one guy, the Cal fan, he's like in sandals, stomping his feet on the bleachers and just yelling and screaming, like I said, flipping off the Miami fan. Now there was a Miami fan there. He seemed nice enough, but he was also kind of being obnoxious too. And but kind of in a this is all fun sort of way. I mean, he was even like when Miami was down, and doing some things. He's screaming and cheering, but then he told the kids sitting next to him, which I think was part of the kids that were with the guy that I was sitting next to, because he was only like a couple people away. He was like, "Hey, just having fun, If you can't do this, you can't, how much fun can you have if you're not doing this?" That type of attitude he had. But as they were coming back, every time they scored, oh, it's too easy. It's too easy. He kept saying that. I was getting a kick out of watching them two just jawing at each other. Kind of funny. But it was as regards like a comeback to be entertained. When you don't have a dog in the fight and you're just there as a spectator, I'll like I've said before on other podcasts, I'll root for the home team. I'll be a Cal fan for a day, for one game. I'll root for them. But to be able to watch a humongous comeback like that was pretty crazy. And so the game was entertaining, but then it was also kind of funny watching those two jaw at each other back and forth. As the game ended, the Cal guy, as he's like running up the bleachers, he like hits the guy's hat away and falls down a few rows, and then he just runs off. I was like, oh, that's a punk move. I'm sure he was doing it partly like out of anger and partly out of just kidding with the guy too. I don't know. I don't want to make it sound like Cal Bear fans were classless people or anything like that, because I'm sure there's some good ones. Um, and I don't want to say this to be like, for you to never go. It was still, I mean, a good atmosphere, and there were a lot of Miami fans there, um, because there was times when Miami did something, you could hear the roar of the crowd. You thought the home team did something. Miami fans travel pretty well, considering they're all the way down here, southeast of the United States. Cal's all the way northwest. Um, but it was definitely a raucous little atmosphere there. And because of it, you get things like that. You get the jawing, these two going at each other, and you get people that aren't willing to move out of your seats, and others you could see smoking, things like that. Whatever. I don't want to say that to deter you or make Cal fan. You might be a Cal fan if you're listening to this podcast. Um, Nothing against you or the fan base. Just this is what we experienced while we were there. Anywho, so that was the game itself. Now, during the game, at halftime, well, during the game, it was halftime of the game. I thought it was really cool that instead of like having fireworks, they had drones that would uh, it's almost like their little night show, their little light show, whatever you want to call it. And it would rotate between being blue and being yellow. That's the colors. And they would do things like spell out the word cow. Um, it would also do something like do their little bear paw logo type of thing. And they would also there was another one that they did it into a football. Um, they did another one where it was like the ACC. They did another one that it's in inaugural, maybe an inaugural season. They had one that was like a bear's face. They had another one that was the state of California, that like how it looks. They had one that was like a football going through the goalpost, and another one I think was said like "Roll on you Bears," something like that. Maybe that's one of their slogans. Um, Another thing they do say a lot is this is bear territory. I saw that quite a bit. I think they even had that in a song. So they're pretty big on that. But yeah, I thought that was kind of cool that they had all those lights, all those drones that had like a light show going on. That was at halftime. That was pretty cool. As I mentioned, this is bear territory. I heard that a lot. They had I don't know if it was a song and or chant that went along with it. The guy that like announces stuff, not necessarily. I don't think he was necessarily the play-by-play guy. That um, that after each play, he says what just happened on the field. I don't think it was him, but just like the in between, one. Um, that dude had a lot of energy. I mean, like he was a DJ at a rave. That maybe I don't know if that's the right, but whatever. This is what it felt like. Like it was, and we were right. The speakers were right behind us. It kind of felt like I was at a rave or at some big wild party. Like I said, this was a raucous atmosphere. That dude had a lot of energy, and it was super loud. I don't like to be the type of person to be like, turn the music down or it's too loud. I don't want to be that guy. Michigan has had that in the past. Whether or not they still do or not, I don't know. But I've heard friends like people are yelling at them to sit down and stop cheering, kind of thing. Um, I don't want to be that guy. I don't want to be get off my lawn guy, right? But with that said, it was super loud. That speaker was blaring behind us. Not enough where it was like I felt like I needed to put in. I didn't have any anyways, but put in earplugs or get any hearing damage or anything like that. It wasn't that, but it was pretty loud. But I'm sure that's on purpose, especially at a big game like that for them. They probably want to have that type of atmosphere. Game day's there; it's a night game. They want to, they got a big team coming in. They want to have a electrifying atmosphere. So that's all probably part of it. Um, the stadium itself is a bowl. And I say that because not all stadiums are bowls anymore. well, not anymore, but not all designed that way. And when I say that, you know, other stadiums you might look and there might have an opening somewhere, and it's not completely just a round bowl, or they got big press boxes or a second story. This one didn't necessarily have that. It was just it was just a round bowl. Kind of reminds me of Michigan Stadium, just without the maybe the press boxes, but obviously Michigan Stadium's bigger. But yeah, it was a bowl, and it's still pretty cool to see though. What their attendance is, how much they hold, I'm not entirely sure. I'm gonna probably guess around maybe 50,000, 50 to 60,000, probably something like that. Um, yeah, probably something like that. But to be able to go there and see it and be able to, um, when it's a bowl like that, you can just see everything, and having those speakers behind you. I mean, if you like an atmosphere like that, this is definitely a game for you to go see. Now, whether or not that's the case every single game, again, we went and saw when they were at Miami came to town, undefeated Miami, and Cam Ward was there. And you got game day. That could have been the reason. On just a normal game, I don't know if that's still the case. Could be, could be. Um, it's definitely possible. But if that's the type of atmosphere you like, then I think you would like this. I think you'd like to go see the stadium if you're like me too. So that's the game. That's the stadium. After the game. All right. So after the game, at this point, Ed used the bathroom, but we're in a big crowd as we're heading out. As we're heading out to go back the other way, that we didn't. Uh, the way we came and got to it, we ended up going the opposite way to get back. And as we get up there, there's to the right and to the left. And to the left, I saw porta potties. I'm not a porta potty guy. Just I'm too germophobic to do. If I absolutely desperate situation, maybe. But for those that know me, you may or not, you may know me personally, you may not. I don't know. But I'm extremely. I can be very germophobic, OCD with the cleanliness of my hands. So porta potties isn't exactly something I want to do if I have other options. And I figure we're in a stadium. There's going to be other options. There's going to be bathrooms somewhere. Just got to walk past it. Well, anyway, so we went to the left. We did not go to the right. We went to the left and kept following along, following along, following along, following along. Next thing you know, we are out of the stadium. And we would have stayed if we would have went to the right. We would have still been in the stadium, and eventually I would have ran into some bathrooms. Blast! Can't go back in. You're not allowed re-entry. Plus, it was a pretty big mass herd of people that are leaving at the same time. It wasn't like people left early. This wasn't a blowout. It was a tight game up until the very end. People, they were still there. So with that being said, there was a lot of people. Couldn't necessarily go back, even if I wanted to. Kept going. Had to really use the bathroom, but just gonna have to, suck it up for now. We're walking. We're walking. Remember we told you. I hopefully remember this part of the story. We had parked our car. We rented a car. We ended up getting a truck. We had parked it. Someone had left. They were parked on the street. They left. We thought, cool. We caught a break. Let's park here. Not worry about the going into the parking structure. We go to that spot. Car's gone. The truck is gone. I'm like, where'd it go? Is this it? This is the right place, right? And my friend recognized something. Was like, yeah, this is the right spot. What happened to it? Did it get stolen? Got towed? So down a little ways, there was a sign there. I guess it was kind of like a permit parking. Didn't see. It was dark and it wasn't necessarily in front of us. And if it got towed, there was a number to call. We called. It was busy. Called. Busy, busy, busy. Finally, I think my friend looked up something, and there may have been another number. Tried calling, got through to somebody, and it was a different department. But yeah, they told us where we could find the car, which was blocks away. Which normally I'm fine with. I can walk. Walking's not a problem for me. But when you have to use the bathroom super badly, walking is not exactly what you want to do. It's not the easiest thing in the world. But what choice do we have? We have no car. Our car is gone. So annoyed by that. So we walk and walk and walk. Now there was at one point we walked by. There wasn't like a ton of public stuff that was open, as I could tell, but there was something that had a public restroom. I was like, all right, here, let me duck into here real quick before we move on. So I go in there. There's a line for it, and I don't want to say it was a sketchy area or not, but it didn't look the cleanest. Which whatever. But I kind of just popped my head in there real quick just to see. No soap. No, I don't even think they. I didn't even remember seeing towels. I'm like, nope, I'm good. I ain't. Nope, I'm good. I might as well use the porta potty. So yeah, even with that, at least you'd have more privacy. I'm like, forget it. So I come back. We're walking, 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 walking. We go to the area that they told us to go to. We're like, where is this thing? We don't see it. Looking around, crossing streets, crossing intersections. Finally, come upon it, and they're as nice as can be, as they're dropping this heavy fine on you to get your car back. Oh, man, it's so annoying. And I forgot, and and there was a bathroom by there, so I did use the bathroom, which thank goodness. Um, Come back, they were taking care of it. My dad, somehow I don't know if it was my dad or my friend that mentioned about getting something to drink. They gave him some water or Gatorade or whatever it was. They had like a bowl of candy. They had another thing full of snacks. I took as much as I can. They're like, oh yeah, help yourself. I mean, they're probably trying to soften us up, considering that they're ripping us off with a chartered arm or leg. And obviously you could try to plead your case. They're not listening. They don't care. So that kind of stunk. So if you do go to Cal, if you want me to help you, I'll be more than happy to. Just be mindful of that. Or I guess that could be anywhere, right? Lesson learned the hard way, I suppose. Look to see if it's like a permit parking or something where your car could be towed, because that is not a pleasant experience having to go walk to find it and then having to, pay an arm and a leg in order to get your car back. Not fun at all. And this was a late game. We got back to the hotel kind of late. And the next day we were this was at the end of our this is two games in one day. We were going to see another game the next day. Surprisingly, when I got back, I don't know if did I fall asleep right away. Yeah, I think I did. I think I was pretty tired by that point. Yeah. Um, but yeah, if you do go there or anywhere else, again, just I guess be mindful of the parking, because that is not a fun experience having to get your car towed and having to go find it somewhere and pay a hefty fine with that. All right, so let's see here. Yeah, I think that's almost everything I wanted to mention about this game. Good game indeed. Got to see the stadium. Got to check that one off the list. Um, not a bad stadium bowl. I think, like I said, about 50,000. And obviously a passionate fan base. They've had some star quarterbacks come through there. Aaron Rodgers came through Cal. Jared Goff, who right now is with the Lions and doing pretty well right now. This with them, he came through there. Um, they've had, as I said, they've had good teams, and I feel like they have a good team now. They played hard, they played good. They couldn't get over the hump to win it. And as I've looked since then, which has only been maybe a couple games, but kind of a similar thing. So currently at the moment, by the time you hear this, it'll be different probably. But currently at the moment, I think they're winless in the conference. And well, that could change. I'm sure. Like I said, by the time you hear this, I'm sure it will. Anyways, but that's Northern California. Or well, I mean that they're in Northern California, but that's California. The California Golden Bears. Glad I got to see him. Glad I got to experience a game day there at California Memorial Stadium in Berkeley, and all in all, nice memories. Aside from a couple of things, the parking thing was probably maybe one of the biggest dampers, but the rest of it was not too bad, I guess. Anyways, if that is something you would like to do, if you'd like to go see them or anyone else, if you'd like to go on a cruise, which is definitely my specialty, whatever it may be, please feel free to reach out and contact me. Once again, my email is j.paradise@gmail.com. or you can reach out to me through Instagram, Facebook at Jay's Paradise Travels, Jays, Jay's Paradise Travels. You can reach out to me that way as well. Um, with it there, I do like to post some pictures um, of where I go to. So, but I also try to do it on the podcast as well. So you may see some stuff on there as well. But feel free to reach out to me. I'd love to help you with whatever your travel, wherever you like to go. Again, if you'd like to go see the Cal Golden Bears, I'll be more than happy to help you get there. And as always with these podcasts, please like them. Please make a comment. Um, share it with other people. Subscribe. All those things we need as podcasters to keep our podcast going. Try to get the numbers up. Get it out to other people. It's all part of building it up, building the business, anyways, for myself. So anything that you can do in those regards is greatly appreciated. So thank you for listening, and look forward to talking with you guys again another time. Take care. Bye bye.